See, I think I pressed the button a little bit late there, and I think we got the end of your Euro economics, Jack. But welcome to the show. I'm just watching England in the background, and we'll keep you up to date.
You're still awake?
Happens, but I've got to be honest. Not a lot is happening right now. It's possibly the worst game I've ever seen. It's so dull. If this is a sign of what's to come from the World Cup, get Southgate gone now. Hashtag Southgate out. I'm tired. I feel jet lagged. I've been on holiday with 2 children to Bognor Regis on John's doorstep. Didn't even meet him for a beer. How antisocial is that? But to be fair, he's probably a bit too busy anyway. John, how are you? I won't ask how Bognor is because it was pissing down with rain this morning. Really not very nice start to my day. I had to load up the car, like taking stuff to the roof box. Have you ever tried loading a roof box in torrential rain?
No, I haven't got a roof box.
It's not much fun.
Never done intentionally.
Awful. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. I've been in Chichester most of the day anyway. Haven't been in Bognor much this week, apart from sleeping and taking the kids to school and stuff. But yeah, it's all right. It's a shame we couldn't catch up. But we saw each other Saturday and we were having 2-pint beers, weren't we? It was great, Jack. You loved it. These massive 2-pint.
They were, yeah.
I enjoyed them when they were. Yeah, enjoy something larger than just the single pint. Often nice. Often nice. Cameron is even sitting there in shock and awe right now. We're probably torturing him.
Yeah.
But something happened? Sorry, did I miss something?
It's Italy have scored, yeah.
I've just been.
Oh, wow.
Worldy from outside the box.
Just inside, just on the edge of the box.
Raspadori.
No, he's nice. He's a good player. He plays for Milan or Napoli now.
So right-footed curler from the left-hand edge of the D, basically.
I don't play Football Manager anymore, but I think he's a big Football Manager player from last year. I think he was supposedly very good.
We'll ask James, the student, but he's been at uni a week.
Apparently.
Yeah, he's a good. He moved from Sassuolo to Napoli.
Oh, there you go.
I thought you said Milan. Okay,
you did.
I initially, and then I corrected to Napoli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and on that bombshell, here's Jack. How are you, Jack?
Well, now we're talking about this game between England and Italy. I'm doing well, Collar and John, and as well as Cameron. We were now, I guess we're talking about that game, but earlier we were talking about garnishes as well as the Euro. So it just shows that we're on a different wavelength and an entirely different page than the rest of the world at this stage. So we'll see how this podcast goes or how this show goes.
Certainly certain people that for some bizarre reason keep calling me, you, and a couple of others out on Twitter. Yeah, they need to get a life.
Yeah, well, I'll sit here and maybe be called a happy clapper while I talk about your garnishes. I'll have a good time nonetheless.
Listen, I've got some South African gin, and I've got some grapefruit in my gin tonight. So
freeze dried one of them.
Let's see your garnishes. Come on, show us your garnish.
My garnish is garnish jar. If you look closely, there's a rose hip in there. You see that?
Looks like marijuana.
It does look like I was refusing to
it's
say
a rose
hip.
hip.
It looks more like a drug jar than anything.
Rose hip in there. Raspberries, freeze dried raspberries.
Easy of you to say.
Capers, blueberries,
roll it up.
star anise, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah. Well, I went with grapefruit. Keep it simple. Keep your comments coming in tonight. Cameron, welcome back to the show.
Yep, good to see you guys. It's not drinking time for me. It's 6:15 a.m., so it's glass of water time for me. Don't know if I could drink at 6 a.m. in the morning, though. So.
Not even
Is
coffee.
it cold? Is it cold there, Cameron?
It's actually warming up. The sun's coming up. It's grand final day today. I'd be lining up outside the MCG exactly this time of the year. It's like your Super Bowl Sunday down here. So I'd be normally doing that, but I've got a wedding to go to when the game's on today. So that's a killer. But so I'll be drinking then when you're asleep.
Nice. What makes you think I sleep?
Yeah, does he look like he sleeps?
I'm a creature of the night. Well, I mean, it's that time of the season that everybody hates. It's the international break, and it's proving every bit as boring as we expected it to be. So much so. I mean, it's 1-0. I really don't care. Unless it's what does that? Do you care, John? It's 1-0.
No, not really.
No?
I mean, they're going to get relegated now, aren't they, into the Division B of the tournament
That's not
now?
good,
But
though.
doesn't really matter. They'll qualify for the next Euros.
Yeah.
How well they do at the World Cup, I've no idea. Hope they might get a bit of momentum going. But Saka playing left wing back, never played there before by all accounts.
Luke Shaw's on now, so
I was Luke Shaw.
Played
Yeah, but
there
Luke
for
Shaw hasn't
Arsenal.
played since they lost 4-0 to Brentford. Sessegnon, admittedly, he's not there yet, in my opinion, but
yeah.
he's played left wing back for the under-21s last night. He would have been a better option than Saka because
I
he
think
knows
you're
the
right.
role.
I think you're right. A lot of people calling for him to be in the England squad, and of course Eric Dyer is in the England. He's playing tonight.
Is he playing any good?
Do you know what? I only really watched the first half, and I've obviously got it in the background now. And from what I saw, he was all right. But let us know in the comments what you think. The comments are live. Doesn't seem to be anyone commenting on anything right now. So yeah, 22 people watching. Hit the like button. Drop us a comment. Let us know you're there. Just so I know it's working. Oh, there it is. It is working. There we go.
There we go.
Well done.
Cafe Cinta official. So Indonesia. Very nice.
There you
Beautiful.
go. There you go. So smash that
Somebody's
like
live.
Let your comments go. We're going to talk about Conte. We're going to talk about maybe this game, depending on what happens. And we will absolutely talk about the season so far. And we've got your questions. We've got your questions in via the Twitter sphere. So we're going to work our way through those as well. You know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get cracking. So Conte to Juve. Fabrizio Romano said yesterday that Juve were not planning to get rid of Allegri yet. He has 2 to 3 more games to turn it around. He's on €7 million plus bonuses. So it would be an expensive divorce if that were to happen. Do you expect it to happen, Jack?
It would be a very expensive divorce, and I believe his contract's up till like 2025 or something like that with Allegri as well. I think he's the second highest paid manager in all of the Serie A alongside Mourinho, or like joint highest or whatever, however it is. But basically, he's paid one of the highest amongst Serie A managers, and his contract doesn't really go up for a while, you could say, and that means it's going to be quite an expensive way to sack him. I think even as well, Allegri, when asked about being sacked, was actually quite dismissive of it, not in the sort of like Brendan Rodgers maybe sort of sense or anything, like kind of in like a very like, well, if they have the money to be able to fork it over and do it right now, then so be it. But he seemed to sort of laugh it off in kind of a sort of a confident manner, which definitely means that Allegri is not getting sacked anytime soon. Despite maybe how atrocious they may are, I'd be surprised if it were to happen. I think they have to fork over 36 million, 39 million, whatever it is that it could be in order to do that. We wouldn't even do that with Tanguy and Dembele. Like, let's be honest. Like, I think that's what it would have took to get Tanguy and Dembele like officially off the books like forever at this club. And I think we couldn't even do that in our sort of financial situation. So I don't imagine Juve will do the same thing, even if they're desperate to get rid of him. And then the other thing that just goes into it as well with Conte has never really left a club mid-season before. I doubt he would do that in our case. And then as well, on like he probably enjoys the 15 million that whatever he's being paid right now from a club like Spurs. And clubs like Spurs, compared to maybe clubs like Barcelona and whatnot of kind of outside England, actually pay their employees on time, and they pay their players and their managers and whatnot. And there's no suing each other and things like that. And I think probably a guy like Conte sort of sees the project at Spurs and has, I know I'm getting ahead of myself and we're going to talk about this, but I'll shut up. But what I mean to say is I think there are some benefits that Conte sees from a club in the Premier League like Spurs versus going back to a club like Juve, where it is a bit of a crisis club at the moment in time. And does he really want to just chop up this project and just move over to Juve and start like a new one and fix them. It just seems, for a variety of reasons I just mentioned, a bit kind of crazy.
Yeah. Cameron, your take on this situation?
I'm pretty sure he stays, but I think Juve's in his blood more than Spurs are. I think it's the club he played for. And his family's over there as well. I think people have to remember family does play a big thing in their decision making, but I think I'm about 75% sure he stays.
Let me ask you this, Cameron. Would he stay beyond the end of the season?
Most likely, but never discount family in a manager's decision making. If Juve can pose or create a good deal or a good enough deal, later in the season, yes, I'd say yes, but there's that small slice of doubt there.
A small slice of doubt, and that is what's going through. People are losing their minds over it. I mean, you only get like literally.
Can I quickly add? I think a bit of news that has been dug up recently by our beloved Ali Gold has come about, and he said that Spurs hold the option to extend the contract actually with Antonio Conte. So technically, even if Conte were kicking and screaming, they could still extend the contract if they would like to.
We don't know how true that is, though. I think he even said.
I think the original assumption was that it was a two-party sort of agreement that Conte would have to agree as well as Spurs would have to agree. But I think he dug into it supposedly and has found out that it's not really the case. And then on top of that, this isn't from Ali Gold, so I'm not speaking from his mouth in this case. But there was something that was tweeted from our also beloved Tottenham Tweers or Tottenham Tears on Twitter. Despite being called out for being happy clappers, we do get good information on Twitter, caller. And Tottenham Tears tweeted that I think there's a lot of sources close to Conte, however you want to read that, but sources close to Conte who do know him say he's totally fine with renewing a contract and isn't exactly anxious or nervous or at all what you say reluctant about it is maybe the right word.
So I think in final I think he stays, but like just the money he could probably get the same in Juve. He wins trophies in Juve, and I think it's family's a big pull for some managers. So I think he stays, but until something's fixed, I would say he's definitely there's just that small amount of doubt there.
I've got to be honest, after 4 days on holiday with them at the other side of the country, I'd give anything to get away for a few weeks. So I can absolutely imagine it's quite nice living in London while your family's in Italy. Pop back for the weekend, private jet job. Bob's your uncle. I mean, I think I agree with you, Cameron, for what it's worth. I agree with you. I think family plays a massive role in it, being seriously. But he's not like me having to organise, an EasyJet flight to fly back and have to go through customs and a lot of fuss. He literally rings someone, turns up at the airport, gets on a jet, he's back in an hour. Like, he could commute to work. So I guess there is that part of it as well. Seriously wealthy people, it's a lot easier for them to get back and forth, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I hear you might miss the pasta. It's probably not as good in London as it is.
Juve's next 4 games are Bologna at home, who are near the bottom of the league. Then they've got Maccabi Haifa at home in the Champions League. Then they've got Milan away, which will be a tough one. And then they've got Maccabi Haifa in the away game. So those 4 games will define whether Allegri goes. If he gets decent results in those, he'll stay. But if he loses maybe 2 or 3 of those games, they're going to have to get rid of him, surely.
This is seriously good gin.
Juve's a rebuilding project. Is what? Who was before Allegri? It was their legend.
Andre Pirlo.
Oh,
yeah, Pirlo.
Yeah.
It sounds like a rebuild project. Is Conte in the business of rebuilding or wanting to win titles?
Well, he is in the short term.
He'll never be in the position to be rebuilding. Like that's how bad it's got now, where they're in the position of like having to scrap everything up and sort of start again. And I don't, but what I meant to say, and I think I mentioned it really briefly, Cameron, but like he sort of did that with Spurs to a degree. Like he started from sort of like a scratch position and like had to build something. And you could say he's halfway. Who knows like what you say he's there, but he's made a lot of progress. Like, does he really want to start that all over with a different club? It would just be kind of like starting a drawing and then just completely just chopping it up, and even if you liked it and then going to a different dumpster fire. And I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't think Spurs were. Well, like actually at the time they certainly were, and that's how much better it's gotten since him and Perisic have been here. And just feels like, does he really want to go to a club like Juventus and risk trying to repair another dumpster fire? Maybe he's that generous of a soul, though. So who knows? I mean,
look, it's a bit like, for me, let's keep the Italian theme going. It's a bit like Michelangelo starting the Sistine Chapel off. The Sistine Chapel ceiling is Spurs. And he gets halfway through. So there's one hand doing that. Yeah, Levy's hands coming the other way doing that in this painting, by the way. And what happens is, like halfway through, it's like, nah, I'm off back to Italy. I'm off back to England in this case. Switching it around. You get what I'm trying to say, don't you? And he leaves the painting half finished. So there's he's just there giving the finger. Yeah, there's no.
Quick last thing, I must say, I'm not totally aware of Italian public transportation or even transportation in general in Italy, but Turin, as we know, is a northern city of Italy. I know he's a southern man of Italy. Yeah. I'm not too sure whether his family actually lives in Turin. I would imagine they either live in the glamorous shopping world of Milan, or they live in Rome, or maybe they live in the beautiful parts of Venice and southern Italy and whatnot.
His hair to me says Milan.
Yeah. So what I mean to say, though, and Milan, I guess, is a bit further north, so I could be wrong there. But what I mean to say is his family doesn't live in Turin either. So he would still then be technically traveling between. I know it's, like you said, Collar, the traveling's easy for him, but it's not like his family is local to Turin either. He would still be living in a hotel, I would imagine, in Turin. So it's kind of a similar situation.
Yeah, just imagine that. Oh, it'd be such a shame.
A lot colder hotel, I would say. A bit more in the Alps, though. Maybe nice.
It's such a beautiful country. I'd go live on Lake Garda, catch up with Clooney.
I see where he's coming from. I see where the tabloids are coming from. Sounds nice the way we're already describing it.
I can absolutely see the benefit of going to back to Italy, 100%. But do I think Conte will do it? I think if what Ali Gold's reporting is kosher. Now me and HG had this conversation, interestingly, when Conte signed on the dotted line. And if you go back far enough, you'll find a Cheese Room episode where we said, well, okay, he signed for a season and a half, but in reality, it's 2.5 seasons because we'll just extend the contract. So our assumption was always we hold all the cards and we'll extend, because that's basically what it is with a player. You don't generally, there's normally a triggered extension point, and it's not like, do you want to stay? Let's sign it. It is, we'll take the option upon your contract. And that's generally what happens. So it was always assumed by us that was the case. I think that is what I actually think that's what Conte's contract will be. So I think what Ali Gold's saying is probably correct. And I would expect us to trigger that at some point this season. Now, what we've seen with Conte in the past is if he doesn't get his own way, he'll break a contract.
Yeah.
He'll kick and scream and whatever else.
It.
So there could be a flashpoint ahead, basically. But I honestly think he is with us till the end of the season minimum. And I think I'm going with you, Cameron. I'm saying 75%. There's just that nagging little bit of doubt. But let's enjoy the ride. Let's enjoy this season while we've got Conte. We always knew when we appointed him, he would not be like a 5-6 season manager, because that's
Tony
not
K's comments is on the money, though. If you have a look, if you get Tony K's, how much has Spurs improved and how much have they improved because they have Conte? Conte alone won't accept his presence forever. He needs a lot more additions. So,
yeah, I think January could be a delicate month because as much as we've been given assurances that it's not as dramatic as the tabloids say via Juventus and whatnot, obviously, let's say we're third in the league, Cameron, or maybe John and Collar, let's say we're third in the league, pushing and keeping up the pace with the rest of the teams, perhaps displacing a Chelsea or Liverpool in that finish for the top of the league. And I don't know, he's probably going to be asking for who knows, a center back, at least a right wing back or something. And I think Spurs are going to have to come through for him there, because most teams, if they are pushing for the league as well, and if they do need an addition, they will go for it. And Spurs have never really been in, I guess we have been in that position in the past, but
yeah, we did nothing.
and we've done nothing. And so,
whoa. Lewis Saha and Ryan Nelson, who were both 105.
I don't think we were pushing for the league at the time, though, were we?
Well,
but I mean to say the league, when we pushed against Leicester, I think
that's what I mean, Jack. Who did we sign?
No one. It's tough to know. Like, that would be a real test for Levy and Perisic and whatnot. And so I think January, despite us being able to sort of kind of, I don't know, laugh at Calcio Mercato and whatnot for the time being, I think January is still going to be a delicate month with how maybe Conte wants things to be done by Perisic.
Well, how often does he want to play 3-5-2? Because his go-to is normally 3-4-3, isn't it? And
well, look at this beautiful comment.
More importantly, the second question, but yeah, we can talk about the first one if we want to.
Well, because I think right wing back's the issue. Like, let's be honest. Like, you got the shopping window of the World Cup. If there's a nice player, the shopping window, a nice doggy in the World Cup doggy in the window, and then Conte's like, I want that one. I don't think he believes in Doherty. Obviously, he's pushing Royal at the moment, but
we've got to sign a right wing back, Cameron. At some point, we've got to sign a quality right wing back. I think we're all just like the biggest thing that grates me. And I spoke about this all the way through the summer windows. We're not signing a quality right wing back. Now, that's frustrating enough. What's really frustrating is we've signed a world-class left wing back in Perisic, but he's a world-class wing back at 33 years old. So how many years has he got left at the top level? 1? 2, maybe?
I think he's world-class going forward. But as we saw, I know he's playing right wing back.
It would have been nice to have met. It would have been nice to have met the signing of a world class wing back like Perisic for the time being, alongside some 24-year-old, 25-year-old. Right.
Well, we've signed Udogie or whatever you want to call him.
So really, we actually did the left wing back side exceptionally.
Left wing back. We have sorted left wing back. We've got 3 great options. Right wing back, we've got very little.
Well, we've got 3 options, but we haven't seen 2 of them this season.
That's
Should we take the questions?
Go on then.
Because I know there's one in there. Here we go. What will it take for? And we'll come back to your 3-5-2. By the way, Jack, I think that's a really good point. What will it take for Conte to give Doherty or Spence a chance down the right when we are playing lesser teams? Which, I hate the phrase lesser teams, because Premier League, anyone can beat anybody. But Cameron, let's go to you on this first. What will it take for Conte to give Doherty or Spence a chance down the right when we're playing lesser teams?
Someone driving over Royal. I don't know, an injury. Essentially, Conte's shown a lot of stubbornness this season. I understand his loyalty to Royal because he's probably trained the house down amongst other things, but essentially it's an injury at the moment and really giving him a big chance. I actually want to see Doherty play. I think Doherty played because I think he was starting to come good last season. It took ages for him to actually really bed in. But then I remember that goal at Leeds. He was just running forward and he got a goal or 2. And I know it was a short patch of form, but we were starting to see green shoots from him. I want to give Doherty a go. If you can't just play the same person, it's the definition of insanity of doing things over and over again. And I do think he actually needs to give Doherty then Spence a shot. And I think it's only by way of injury. I get Royal's a square peg in a round hole. He's not a right wing back. He's a fullback. But it's virtually leading to an injury at this present time of Royal.
Yep. As an Italian pitch invader, sorry, caught my attention for a second.
Oh, yeah, I just got that. I think that he spoke last week, Conte, particularly after the Leicester game, about that he's going to rotate more. He mentioned it a bit last week, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of changes, but I think he will rotate more. We've got 2 games a week. There's going to be no let up between the North London derby and the game on my birthday against Leeds, which is the last game before the World Cup. The only time we might have off is the possibility that I think the Brighton game is going to be postponed because of train strikes, because Brighton's ground is in a stupid location and you can't get to it unless you go on the train.
You as well, though, John. Really easy to use.
Well, it's about 35 miles from me, but yeah.
That is easy.
Well, not if there's no trains, because you can't drive to it. You're not allowed to drive to it. There's nowhere to park.
Surely there is a
Some
car
people
park
swam
in
it.
Brighton.
Yeah, if I walk, it's about 3 miles outside Brighton, though. So you'd have to walk up the hill out of it. Yeah. Have a look at a map.
There'll be
It's
some.
not actually in Brighton at all.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah, you have a look. But I think he will rotate. I don't think we're going to see much of Spence unless there's an injury. I don't really want to see Perisic play right wing back again because that didn't work. Defensively, he worried me because he made before that, the penalty, he made a couple of horrendous challenges. I want to see him at left wing back and I want to see Cess. Cess is getting better, but for me, it's taking a long time for Cess to get better at left wing back. Udogie next season, I think, is going to be a breath of fresh air to us. But right
I haven't
wing back,
watched the full games there. Just a question, John. I haven't watched the full games of Spurs. I've watched the mini matches because of Optus here and so forth. And I was listening to the pods and stuff, and I think Paul and 1 or 2 others saying that the defensive capabilities of Perisic aren't as there potentially to what they used to be on either side. Is that true? Obviously, he's delivery and going down.
He's a winger. He's a winger, isn't he? He filled in at that.
He was never that good at defense anyway.
Well, that's what my question. So, what's his delivery?
He got exposed a bit on the right, I would say, more than he usually does on the left, is what I would say. Because on the left, it didn't feel like you saw him get maybe beat as many times or miss as many tackles, whereas when he did play on the right alongside Sanchez, which maybe is the reason, but he didn't look as he maybe got exposed a bit more, you could say, Cameron, playing on the right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what he did last time out against Leicester.
The 2 challenges I'm talking about were after Sanchez made a complete hash of an up and under by Maddison. And it almost went a bit into panic mode, and he didn't need to. If he'd stayed on his feet, yes, the guy would have run past him pace-wise, but I saw it last night without
on Sanchez. I don't think I blame Perisic for missing those tackles.
By the way, John, what you need to do is park at Booker.
Right. Yeah. Okay. With the other 30,000 people, yeah?
No,
it'd be daft. Booker's
Don't tell Diver, maybe he'll give me his hospitality tickets.
Has he got hospitality tickets for Brian?
He's going in a box somewhere, yeah, with his mate.
He'd be in a box if he carries on being lippy, I'll tell you that much. There's loads of off-street parking. Loads. Oh, you moaning about?
I bet there's not on the match day.
I bet 100%. I bet you.
All right.
There's the University of Sussex. Get in there.
No, yeah, you can't park. You cannot park there. I've been to meetings there. Parking's like impossible there.
What about that field that's next to it? It's massive.
No idea. It's probably a farmer's field, but you know.
Plough in then.
In my wife's car that's in the garage for the whole weekend.
Just saying.
Anyway,
go on.
I think we'll see Doherty play some games. My worry is he hasn't played for so long. Hopefully, he'll have a good couple of games for Ireland this week. I've no idea who Ireland are playing, but he'll get some games, and then we'll start seeing him. Spence apparently played quite well for the under-21s last night, I gather. I'd like to see him given a couple of games or get into a bit of game time. Just seems to be taking a while. Jack,
yeah, we just need some rotation options because at the moment he doesn't feel he's got any. The fact that he's playing Perisic on the right shows that he doesn't trust Doherty. He doesn't trust Spence. And is it a message to the board almost, Jack? Like, what have you done to me? You stitched me up. Get me a proper right wing back.
Maybe in a way, probably he might be saying that. At the same time, though, being asked about Royal, he certainly has defended the guy, and he's shown him a bit of love, you could say, because when asked about Doherty and Spence, he didn't bring up Doherty's injury or anything. He said, I picked the right wing back that I know will help me win. And I think there's kind of a lot to be said about that, where as much as he might be being a bit stubborn, I think he has been a bit stubborn. I probably find myself defending Emerson more than others, just because I think there's sometimes a bit of an unnecessary target on his back. Because I think ever since he's got here, actually, this team has weirdly gotten better, whether that's his own doing or not. And he's played a lot of games, let's be honest, as well. So he's been a part of a lot of good wins. What I mean to kind of be saying here is I think Conte has, since he's gotten here, even chose Emerson from the beginning. Doherty did have those 6 great games, and those 6 great games probably did overshadow Emerson's whole season under Conte. But let's be honest, when Conte did come in, he picked Emerson first until Matt Doherty proved to Conte, apparently via training or something like that, that he could get into the team. And then he was really unlucky to get that injury, But since that injury,
wasn't it, you know?
I'm just going to interrupt to tell you England have lost and will be relegated in the Nations League or whatever it's called. Hungary won in Germany 1-0 as well. So they're actually top of the group.
Quick random fact, I would say that Hungary team have given everybody a good game since they've been in the Euros. I mean, there's not one team in the Euros that didn't struggle against them. So they seem to, and I believe they've been running a 4-4-2. So Graham Souness, Sean Dyche, etc., the age-old wise heads of the game would absolutely love seeing the 4-4-2 being so effective.
I mean, Italy are celebrating like they've won the European Cup or something.
I think they're just saying the sacking of Southgate maybe is really what it is.
Ultimately, games before the World Cup.
Southgate out in Italy. Maybe they're Southgate out in Italy.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Southgate out until after the World Cup, are we? Really?
Correct. Yeah, and I think games before the World Cup mean, like pre-season friendlies, don't mean a lot.
No.
The only worry is England don't have a friendly like in the week before the World Cup, which is quite unprecedented. You don't, because the club season's finishing.
I think we're going to bomb
the World Cup,
John. I genuinely think we're going to bomb at the World Cup.
I think the group stage will be tough. If they can get through the group stage and get a half decent second round game, they can grow. England traditionally have grown into tournaments.
I disagree with
all teams.
I think all teams will be a bit discombobulated. I think they'll be all over the place. All teams, because it's in the middle of a season, so you don't know which team's going to react quickest or in the best manner.
Because... Oh yeah, but England always do this. Italia 90, England were really poor in their first game, and were against Ireland. It was
top the group.
Yeah, all the other countries were laughing at England after that first game, and they almost won the thing in the end because they grew. They changed the team round. Quite interesting. I heard an interview with Stuart Pearce the other day where England went to a back 5 after the first group game and played the Dutch, and that's the game that Gaza came on the world stage. And Chris Waddle was the player that really pushed going 3 at the back, 5 at the back with Bobby Robson. They worked on it together because he played it with Terry Venables, and I'm guessing he might have played it in Marseille as well.
Here's a question: Is Brazil playing tonight?
Richarlison scored twice earlier.
Yeah,
I know that.
Is Royal in the team? I'd like to.
No, he's not. He's hanging out in London. Actually, I think working out. Hanging out with his buddies. I follow him on Instagram, so I can confirm he's in London.
Okay, I was curious to know if
the latest news.
I enjoy the shirtless 6-pack pics from time to time. I enjoy to see the private chefs and the lifestyle of a footballer. I must be honest, John, it's quite luxurious, and I must say, Emerson, seems to just take care of himself. The barber's always there, teeth whitening, etc. I kind of enjoy his life. I must be honest. I kind of look at it out of jealousy.
I'm at the barber tomorrow.
Yeah,
you need to go to.
We can all be Emerson one day, maybe.
A mullet and a half.
How's the 6-pack coming, caller?
I mean, if it was a 6-pack of Stella Artois, we're winning.
What, wife beater?
Wife beater, yeah. I've got to be honest, John. I've let myself go a little bit in recent months. You may be aware of this. There's a big. All I'm saying is there's a big shred coming up. Big shred.
Good news.
Starts Monday.
Good man.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram for some progress.
I'll pest you just to be annoying.
Just follow Emerson on Instagram. Maybe get a bit of motivation there, caller.
Yeah, the caller shred.
The caller shred. From
say what you will about his abilities as a right wing back.
You see that Peloton bike in the background? You might not actually, but it's getting beaten up next week. That's what I'm saying.
getting dusted off.
It's getting beaten up, smashed.
It's getting used more than Steve Divers, isn't it?
I think I've got like over 500 rides under my belt on Peloton. Steve's got 2. I'm not making that up either. That's a stat.
I thought he had 1, to be fair. So that's, he's double my money.
He got an incomplete second one. I think he started it and sacked it off halfway through. I'm not going to slag Steve off. I encourage.
So, Adrian, what's a live cheese room show? You versus Steve.
Yes, that would be good.
We did have a suggestion that from mainly from HG actually that we should do the holiday, like go fine dining and just banter with each other all day. If you've seen that Steve Coogan, or the Welsh dude, what's his name? Can't remember. You know what I mean, John?
Yeah, I can't remember his name now either. It's blocking. Yeah,
he's a Welsh comedian. It was in Gavin and Stacey. Yeah, they do this show where it's called The Trip, and they go around.
Rob Brydon.
Rob Brydon.
There you go.
Caller versus Stevie would be that. We'd just go around fine dining restaurants and take the piss out of each other all the way. I think it'd be
that would be funny.
I genuinely think it'd be compulsive viewing, particularly if we disagree on so much stuff.
Could I ask a question now? After Arsenal, going back to the question of Doherty and Spence playing lesser teams, who have we got after Arsenal? It's the Champions.
Oh, we've got that.
Kick in.
Do you want to find it?
Who plays
Go
after
for it, John.
Who do we play after that?
Let me find it while you're chatting.
We play Frankfurt on Tuesday, October 4th.
Here we go.
And then we play Brighton.
There we go.
Then we play
sorry. No, Jimbo's only done the league games. Oh.
I'm curious.
Frankfurt in between Arsenal and Brighton, right?
We play home and away,
Arsenal and Brighton. There's 4 days rest between Frankfurt and Brighton. There's only 3 days rest between the Gooners and Frankfurt.
And then is it a league game after Frankfurt?
Everton
is the league game after. I would say that's the game where you could see Doherty being played because Arsenal, Tottenham, let's be honest, could probably be Emerson again. I think he probably continues with Emerson, maybe against Frankfurt. And then Brighton, maybe he could go with a change there, but that still is away from home. Frankfurt, yet again, like we know he loves Emerson. And like I said, the 6-pack might still be there come October 12th. And then October 15th, maybe after all of that, I bet Emerson won't have any legs left. So he'll probably go.
Brighton will be interesting because they've got a new manager and we've got no idea how they're going to play and how much he'll change.
I have a bit of an insight on De Zerbi, but I could just give a quick sort of synopsis. Exceptionally kind of like good going forward. He brought out the best of that guy Berardi, I believe, who's never actually left Sassuolo, funny enough, but is a good player. And he is a really good kind of sort of on the eye, sort of like attacking sort of football, very good one-touch passing, quick kind of link up and whatnot. The reason I kind of know a bit about him is because I do kind of like that team Shakhtar, and I have watched them and kind of rooted for them in the Champions League in the past. So I do kind of remember his time there. And I did like the football that he played, but I heard from his days at Sassuolo that as much as he looked good going forward, they conceded a lot of goals at the same time. So it's almost kind of maybe the opposite of maybe Graham Potter, where I feel like Graham Potter's teams were pleasing on the eye, but they always struggled to score goals. His teams will be pleasing on the eye, but will not struggle to score goals, but will struggle to keep goals out of their own net.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I think everybody's getting a go over the next few weeks because after Arsenal Tottenham, that's on the 1st. The 4th is Frankfurt Tottenham. Then on the 8th is Brighton Tottenham. On the 12th, it's Tottenham Frankfurt. On the 15th, it's Tottenham Everton. And then the 19th is Man United Spurs. So he has to rotate. He doesn't have a chance. Spence will surely get a go, and so will Doherty. That's a torrid run.
Yeah, he's got to look at it from a point of which games we know Emerson is better defensively. So which games do we need that defensive solidity? And it might also be, it depends if Sanchez is playing or Romero, because Sanchez and Emerson aren't brilliant as a combo because they're not good enough on the ball.
That's true. Update as well via his Instagram. He dyed his hair blue. There's another thing.
I did see that actually. Yeah, on Twitter I saw that.
In case
that'll get back in the team as well, won't it? If you got a question for the panel tonight, drop it in the chat. Sam's popped this one in. How How good really is Udogie? Haven't watched much of him yet. Have any of you got a view on this? So I've seen the stats. I've seen the fact he's set the world on fire in terms of assists and goals. Looks really pacey and powerful. Anyone else got anything else?
Jack, do you want to take this?
Who?
Jack.
Oh,
Jack.
sorry. I thought you called me John, and that is actually my real name. Udogie, he's had an exceptional season this season. From what I knew last season was that what kind of made him really good is that he's a really good ball carrier. I would say a much better ball carrier than Sessegnon. I think that's kind of what probably hurts Sessegnon sometimes, as if you guys ever watch him, is that I think he struggles to take on some of his men kind of one-on-one situations, really take it down the byline and put in a good cross. Seems to always do something a bit elementary or kind of basic, if you ask me, whereas Udogie just has no problem taking it past his guy and kind of creating something. He's probably more creative than Sessegnon and has maybe benefited from that this season. They had two good wing backs last season at Udinese. They had that guy who we were looking at. You probably even maybe had me on the show over the summer for it, maybe when we talked about him and we knew it was never going to happen. But Nahuel Molina, that Argentinian international over at Udinese, was also right wing back, which we probably should have signed for, to be fair. He also is having a good season, but I think what's making kind of Udogie's season special this season is that guy has left, who had a really good season for them last season, an even better season than Udogie had. And now Udogie, without maybe having that other great right wing back along that side, has now somehow taken his place and has sort of hit the ground running in a really good manner, which sort of suggests that he is an exceptional player because he's sort of maybe taken on the burden of some of the productivity that the previous sort of wing back on the other side was putting out there. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Tony's making some good comments tonight. He's saying he's been amazing for Udinese so far and a big reason why they are sitting third in Serie A at the moment. Driving runs, goals, assists, still young, but has it all. From what I've seen, and I've not seen loads of him, he does look physically like a real beast. He obviously spends a lot of time in the gym. He is fairly quick. He's got a real eye for goal as well. Big guy, but he's nipping in and getting far post finish and stuff. Clever movement, and that's really important. And for me, he's a Conte player all over. But even when Conte moves, he'll be able to stay in the team.
He's future potential, isn't he? He's
absolutely.
He's in the Spence bracket ultimately, and that's why he's been left on loan. He is future potential. He's the future of our left wing back. Him and Sessegnon.
I think the problem is Udinese would only sell him with a loan.
Yeah,
he didn't have any choice, so that was the deal. A bit like Sarr last year, and it's a shame we've yet to see Sarr. I'd like to, even. I think 15-minute cameos.
I think you'll see some of these guys in the cup games. Like if we get, maybe not League Cup, but FA Cup early rounds of that, it is primed really.
Yeah.
In many respects, us qualifying for the Champions League is fantastic. But if we were playing, dare I say it, Conference League or Europa League, and not that I'm wishing that on us, you would be seeing a lot more of these players getting minutes. It's a shame that. It's not a shame for us, but it's a shame for them that they're not going to get many minutes at a Spurs shirt this season. It's a real shame we couldn't loan out some of these guys. Yeah, because could you really see Sarr getting any minutes this season?
I push back on Sarr. I think the other ones I'd agree. I think Tanganga, we should have done better on. Spence, if we're not going to use him, we could have done better on. Maybe others especially in the youth academy, we could have done better on. Why isn't it that we haven't seen Niall John get sent back on loan again? Maybe Pascazzi, players like that again. But the reason I push back on Papa Matasar is because he hasn't actually really been in England yet until now. And I think that would have been a bit weird had he been signed for Spurs and he continued to be pushed out on loan. It would have then been the case with Udogie. Think about with how great Udogie has been this season. We would have then left him out on loan again. And I think that would have been quite odd. It's kind of is he really our player or what's going on here? And I think with Papa Matasar as well, I think he's 19. Maybe he just turned 20 or something like that. But point being, though, is that he's got a lot of time on his side in the grand scheme of things. And I think him actually being here at Spurs, learning from Conte, as well as having a player like Basuma, who's had a similar sort of upbringing. I wouldn't say upbringing, that's the wrong word, but uprising is maybe the better word, where he's gone from Africa. He's then went to Liga. He went to France like Basuma had, where Basuma went from Mali to Liga. He's gone from Senegal to Liga. They made a name for themselves there, bought by Spurs, or also, I guess in Basuma's case, went to the Premier League, made a name for himself. And you also have Yaya Toure here, who's obviously an icon for a lot of players from the African continent. And I think Papa Montessar can do with a year here. I think he'd be fine being sent out on loan maybe the next season, but I just don't know like how urgent you need to really handle things. In fact, I think him being around Spurs players, being around Conte, being around England, learning English, which some people seem to be very steadfast on as well, which is probably important too, I think is all good things. And maybe I'm talking about probably a lot of stuff that doesn't really happen on the football pitch, but considering again, he's just a teenager basically at the end of the day, I actually feel like all the things that actually he might be learning right now, just hanging around all these players and hanging around the Spurs environment is actually a good thing for him. Whereas players like maybe Tanganga, I would definitely not say that. I think Tanganga really missed out on being sent out on loan. And it maybe in the case of Bryan Gil, if Conte didn't want Bryan Gil should have been sent out on loan and we maybe missed out on finding a replacement there. But in the case of Papa Montessar, a very specific case, I may add, I actually might push back. I think
he'll be a good player. I think we saw in the preseason, the guy's got a lot of ability.
It just doesn't matter. Like it's one of those guys like so young. Like, does it matter if he plays like Niall John is older than him? Niall John is older than him. It doesn't matter.
Players improve a lot though due to first team football, regular first team football.
I can't argue against that.
And that's the thing. I get the argument for him being around the squad and training with the team and acclimatizing to the English game. I get all of that. Put him on loan to an English team,
maybe
Championship.
I just like looking at their Instagrams. That's the problem, caller. And when they leave, then I can't any longer. So it's selfish answer.
Selfish reason.
Do you feel jilted? Do you?
I don't like a Papa Montessar, so I'm kind of embellishing there. But I look forward to Udogie's because you did mention that physical sort of aspect. So who knows? Maybe he'll throw a lot of six packs on the Instagram stories. Look forward to it.
Cameron, what you say?
He said, for Hill, I think we've dudded him. I think we really should have pushed him out on loan, whether Spain or more so England. But no wonder the guy wants to leave because he's not getting the game time at an age where he needs to develop. I don't think he's got a great romance to the club, and I think it's partly our fault. I think there's talent there, and I think we're actually being highly negligent of quite a good talent. Is he a Conte player? Probably not. But I think that in years to come, he'll probably come up showing that he's quite a decent
100%. He'll be a baller.
Yeah.
I honestly think he'll be a good player wherever he goes.
I don't want him to leave. I think we've dudded him, and it's a bit sad because I actually think that he'll turn out to be a player in Spain.
All right, John, throw us up your next question.
Oh. Shall I just do a random one without even looking?
Yeah, do it.
I like this one.
Yeah. I mean, is that a question or a statement?
Oh, it's never going to happen.
January signing if we got the
No. Look, there is a very good reason. I don't know why people get het up about this, right? Because it makes very little difference, in my opinion, to the financials of the club, because I believe this money will go into paying the debt off. I genuinely do.
But surely that does make a difference, because if you're using that to pay the debt off, you're not.
Well, no, because the debt is leveraged over such a long period of time. It's not impacting the club right now.
Yeah, so but this issue's been staying around for years. It's about 2-3 years.
Yeah, but there's a reason why.
Yeah, I get COVID.
Aren't they?
There's a really good reason why. Nothing to do with COVID. Well, partly to do with COVID, but they don't know how to price it. And okay, right. Supposing we do a deal tomorrow, right, with Nike, and it's 200 million over 10 years. Is that a good deal?
Of course.
Right. Is it?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but if you're amortizing it over a number of years, I'd say it's reasonable.
Okay, so 200 million over 10 years, right? 20 million a season. Yeah? Good deal. We agreed on that? Good deal? Okay.
Does it become the Nike Stadium? Is that what it becomes? Like
Yeah, the Nike Stadium. 20 million over 10 years, 200 million over 10 years.
It would be a
20
25 million. It'd be a 25 year deal, won't it? It won't be 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Like,
just
no,
for
it's short
argument's sake.
term. It would
Just
be
for
yeah.
argument's sake, right? 25,
There
we
you go.
get 25 million a year, right?
Adrian's on it already.
Okay, so hear me out. The next season, yeah, we get an NFL franchise in the stadium. You can't undo that deal. It's 25 million a season for 10 years. Is that a good deal? Bearing in mind, the NFL is the biggest sport revenue advertising wise in the world.
Could you do a deal where that if an NFL comes in, then it goes up? Could they make that part of the deal?
I can't see how you make it work.
It's a matter of proportion, though, because I wouldn't do 10 years. Like in Melbourne here, we've had a roofed stadium here. It's about 60,000. We've got Marvel Stadium. It used to be Telstra Stadium. It used to be Etihad Stadium. Normally, it goes about 4 to 5 years. So over a 10-year span, that'd be dark.
To be fair, 10 years pretty standard over here.
What? 10 years in England? Oh, well, yeah, you got Emirates, but I think you would want to do it shorter because, but proportionally gets smaller because we assume the wages and revenue increases over time as the Premier League becomes more valuable. So then if that 10-year deal looks good at the time, proportionally it looks smaller in your 8th and 9th and 10th year.
Yeah. I think the problem is, I genuinely think the problem is, how do you price a stadium that can do everything? We know the NFL want a franchise in the UK, right? That's a fact. And we know that the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is built for that purpose. I mean, you go on the tour, the changing rooms are there, the media rooms are there, the managers' rooms there, the coaches' rooms there.
Yeah.
Honestly, and do it and ask them to go see the NFL facilities. You will have to ask for it because it's a benefit. Interesting enough, when we did the tour as a group of cheese room guys, they went, "We watched the cheese room. Come and we'll give you the exclusive tour." And they took us in all these areas. They're massive props to the guys at the stadium. They're brilliant.
Wow.
But that's the problem with the stadium naming rights. That is the problem with the stadium naming rights. That's why it's not been done. And obviously, COVID landing slap bang in the middle of it didn't help either because a lot of companies were not cash flush. And how you solve that problem, I don't know, but I don't think it's an issue.
I don't think it's an issue.
It's not an issue that supporters should be concerned with at all because it's going to make it's going to make very little difference to your life as a supporter.
I agree. I know. Well said, caller. It's probably more efficiently than I would put it. What I would add is that we're also not in the position like maybe an FC Barcelona where we have to sell our soul, sell our rights to anything like in order to get some money in the
other thing is
either like for everything before anything you say Barcelona. I actually should have said Spotify FC Barcelona because now before you say Barcelona you have to say Spotify, and I don't want that to be the situation with Spurs where before anything Spurs related has to be mentioned Amazon or Nike.
Yeah, but the other thing is you've got to bear in mind that stadium was created from square one, right? So it was White Hart Lane. It's now the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A lot of people still call it White Hart Lane, including myself.
It's nice to still call it that, right?
It's nice always to be that
one or the other.
But here's the thing: the longer you leave the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the longer it goes in people's minds, especially in overseas markets. Live from
especially
the
with the NFL,
Stadium.
I was thinking the same thing. Especially with the NFL, I was thinking the same thing.
The NFL is the NFL, like it or not, is our target market. America is our target market, and that's where the money is. So you're advertising it to potential buyers of the club, potential bidders. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is what goes out now. You're making Tottenham Hotspur a brand in the States, whereas before they wouldn't know who Spurs were.
I agree. The money is in the Yanks. The money is there, and
there are several reasons. There are several reasons why it's taking so long. There are several reasons, and honestly, it makes no difference to the on the pitch activities. What happens? Because I honestly believe, as Adrian says right here, we have £703 million or thereabouts, maybe a bit higher than that. We'll see on the latest accounts worth of debt. So we've got to service that. We've got to face into that at some point. And the bonds are secured over, like, I think the first one's 15
30
years,
40 year, whatever,
and then 30 years, and then 35, and so on. But you've got to pay it at some point. So I honestly, I think if there's 200 million coming in from stadium naming rights, it won't go on the team. Just to manage everyone's expectations. I don't think it will.
Just not desperate like you, Color. I think we can sort of ask the price that we want to ask for. I don't think we need to fold at all.
No.
Ideally, something that also rings off the tongue maybe a bit more. And I enjoy having a Tottenham Hotspur stadium. And like you said, maybe there's a secret benefit of that when it comes to the concerts and the NFL, etc., that come to us. And instead of it being the Amazon Stadium, it's the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that Beyonce.
Or sadly, White Hart Lane, because live from White Hart Lane means nothing to a person watching the AJ fight in the States. Live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, okay, that's Tottenham Hotspur.
But then at the same time, someone who's whatever knows it originally as White Hart Lane will say Beyonce is performing at White Hart Lane.
Yeah,
and I think the message is still the same. And I think for the time being, until we don't get the price that we want, I say, continue to fold. If it were a poker situation, continue to fold.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Next question, John. The randomizer working?
This one. There's two here.
Well, I'm going to let you debate. I need to go get some more tonic.
Okay.
I've run out of tonic and ice. Ice, baby.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to the fridge. Got to fight my way through the man cave.
Are you going to mute
yourself before the ice because
it sounded like a bowling alley last time.
Do you know what it is, right? I've got my weights bench out there because I want to get fit. The ladder's down from the loft at the moment. For some reason, Becky's put a high chair out here. I've no idea why. So I was tripping over that. And then before I went away, I was looking for the roof box mounts, and I couldn't find them anywhere because I've not used it for 2 years. And I ripped the place to pieces. Under the bars all come out. The paint. I've got a painting, a decorating box. That's all taken to pieces. It's just a disaster. Anyway, enjoy your debate. I'll be back in a minute.
First question then. Are Conte's use of formations and tactics holding us back from attacking? This season, we seem to invite pressure and score goals on the break. Let's discuss. Cameron, let's discuss.
I think Conte's a 3-5-2 man, but I don't think he has we have the players. James and HG talked about this last Saturday. We have the players for a 3-5-2. I don't think he has confidence in the wing backs. I think he's genuinely stubborn with regards to holding to a certain view in formation. I think with the Leicester game last Saturday, he's with our squad, he goes 3-4-3. And then when he wants to change it up, add initiative, like he did with Leicester, he goes to a 3-5-2 from what I was watching last Saturday. I think he is holding us back because watching us as well as listening to the pods, reading up, it sounds like Jose Mourinho Mark II with probably a couple of different defensive mechanisms there. And reading up, you're hearing that they're basically we're winning dirty, we're winning with not attractive football, and we're letting teams play, we're letting teams attack, but then we're winning on the counter. So it's hard because we're third on the table or second wherever we are, and we're winning, but with horrible football. And I think we've got enough talent there to go forward. I just think that he's playing with a lot of self-preservation at the moment, or I don't know if he has genuine faith in some of those plays yet. This is a tough question because next Saturday, I have a feeling we have to go 3-5-2. I think Arsenal's going to be steaming ready for us, and they're going to stack the mid just to beat our midfield too if we go with the 3-4-3. This is a really pertinent question because that North London derby, they're going to be ready for us. And we need more mid-plays in the mid. Just that midfield too. I don't know if it's winning us games, but it's not making us look attractive, let alone convincing.
Yeah, I think I'll come to Jimbo's question in a minute, which you sort of touched on. I think for me, I get where he's talking about the Jose thing. The difference between Conte and Jose was Jose would set up the team defensively and then tell the players to play. There was no attacking pattern. Conte tells them how to attack. That's the difference. And for some reason, it's not clicking because we come out second half and we generally are better because he's given them he's had a go at them.
Yeah.
Which is worrying because why are we not starting quicker? That's what, anyway. Jack, your comments on the top question first.
I don't think we're being held back. I just don't think we're clicking yet. But even if we're not clicking yet, like the evidence shows that we're still quite good, guys. Like, I mean, we have better goal difference than Arsenal. Arsenal have been praised throughout this campaign. They've had statistically and proven to be, by a lot of people, the easiest start to the Premier League. Yet we've scored more goals than them, and we've also conceded just as many as them. So while we're playing dreadful football and while we're playing disgusting football, whatever people might think, whatever people might think by the disgusting football and dreadful football that we're playing, how is it that we've had a tougher schedule, a tougher opening part to the Premier League, and we've scored more goals than them and have actually also as well conceded just as many as them? So when I do look at that sort of statistic, as much as I'd like to think that maybe things are wrong, Arsenal should probably look at themselves the way that I just put it that way, where they've had the easiest start to the Premier League, easier than any other team in the Premier League, so it was said. And so it was shown, I think, with some sort of like statisticians and whatnot, whereas Spurs have been shown to have one of the harder starts to the Premier League. So how is it that we're sort of, at the end of the day, finished with the same goals conceded and the same or more goals scored as well? And I know, as well as I agree with everybody, that we're not even in first gear yet. We're still in second, third gear. We can still be better than this. So that still brings me optimism. So in the end of the day, when you look at just sort of the stats, the statistics, the score lines, they also played Leicester, like Arsenal also played Leicester. They didn't dismantle them in the same way that we did in the second half. So I just look at it. Spurs have never played to the full capacity we know they can play, but
do we know that?
we're still third in the league. And at the same time,
I think we're saving it for the
better underlying statistics than Arsenal do. And Arsenal are praised every single day for beating teams that they know they should beat, and also have had the easiest start to the Premier League.
Do you think there's a media narrative against Tottenham Hotspur, John? We were talking about this the other day. So let me just give you my view first. I just want to finish with this thought. We don't belong at the top table. That's the way I feel that Sky and BT Sport and a lot of pundits think. I think they believe that Tottenham Hotspur are the great pretenders in that big six and ultimately don't really belong. And our coverage is always less favourable than Arsenal, the United. I don't want to create a victim mentality, but it does always seem to me that we are almost the whipping boys. It's Spursy. We're going to fuck it up, etc., etc., etc. And it's just frustrating, really. I mean, I remember when we dismantled Man United, there was more coverage about why Man United lost the game than how great Spurs played. Yeah, and that's always the way. I just think
anytime Spurs are praised, I think when Jamie O'Hara gives any sort of praise, Jason Cundy, I think, has to say, hold on at least 15 times before.
That's because Cundy's a moron.
Cundy is a moron.
Well, the point, but that's the point, though. That's the point of how, you could say Hojbjerg is not that bad, and he'll have to say, hold on, at least 20 times from there. It's just really, you can't give Spurs any ounce of praise. You can't give them an ounce of praise, I think.
Beyond the complete load of nonsense, to be honest, that is TalkSport. I'm talking mainstream. I'm talking Sky. I'm talking Gary Lineker on the BBC. I genuinely think that we get a lot of unfair shit, and they whip up stories about Conte leaving and all the rest of it. And it just always seems to me they're a little bit out to get us.
Seb's on the money with his comment.
Yeah. This is it. So Spurs, if that was Spurs last season that had bottled it and faded away and melted, really, we'd be getting panned for it now. all you heard was, "Oh, plucky young Arsenal side. Oh, we have the youngest squad in the league." And all the rest of it. There's an agenda there. There's always an agenda. What do we? I suppose the question is, John, and this is where I'm going, and it is coming back to you.
Okay.
How do we break that? Because I don't want to be victims about it. I want to be on the front foot. How do Spurs break that? Is it simply we've got to get over the line and win something, and then we become part of the elite?
When the press were on our side was when we were playing really good football under Poch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment we're having little parts where we're playing good football. Against Southampton, Fulham, and on Saturday we played some good football at times, but we also played some turgid football in all those games and other games. And I think probably because we're not always that pretty on the eye, but we're grinding games out, we're winning games and being effective. That's part of it. But yes, if we win the league, Conte won't leave Tunes too close. Are you confusing Conte with Caller, Seb? But yeah,
I agree. It's, if I ever wanted to vacation, maybe near Sampdoria, I just realized maybe not for me.
There's another example on the scheme, by the way, on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That ongoing is just so frustrating. But then how much of that was led by Mr. Charlie Kane leaking stories out because they're trying to maneuver him out?
Yeah.
But it sells papers. It's clickbait, isn't it? All these things. But as far as Sky and BBC, there's not many ex-Spurs players that are employed, are there? With Jennus probably. Redknapp hates Spurs. His dad got sacked. Who?
Jennus.
Yeah, he tries to be balanced, and he's generally okay with. He's definitely a Spurs fan. There's no doubt about that.
Graham Souness played for Spurs.
Graham Souness. I love Spurs. Yeah, I left after one game because I was homesick, and then played Liverpool. But yeah, he never talks Liverpool down, does he? But it must be Pogba's fault that Spurs are bad. That's why. But yeah, I mean, Seb's saying about Hoddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hoddle.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't want to speak for you guys, but I was about to say it. Wait for you guys to say it first. I've heard Hoddle isn't too nice about Spurs sometimes. I've heard he's been quite critical of them.
Well, he's kind of Chelsea as well, isn't he? So
he is kind of, yeah. He's always put on the Chelsea games because obviously he played and managed for them as well. So he's quite, yeah. He almost supports them as much as he does us at times.
Look, I haven't watched every game this season, but I remember watching that Wolves game, and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot in that first half. Even though I thought that was shit football, that was. But there's times where you look at it and go, Tottenham, that's really bad. So sometimes we deserve it.
But hang on. You're getting a hang on here, right? Let's talk Man United.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been terrible for about 8 years.
The only thing I would say
coverage
is other club fans feel the same way a lot of the time. Whether they're right or wrong.
But that's the point, John. We're not part of the elite.
No, they feel themselves about their own club. A lot of United fans or Arsenal fans feel that they get the same sort of thing a lot of the time. Is it a perception thing that we've got because we see all the comments?
No, I'll be honest. I, as a Yank myself, I, obsessively look at all the British media for just a semblance of understanding of where maybe the pulse is at, where people are thinking and whatnot. And I'll be honest, you're constantly listening to how can we get Man United back to where they were and how great our Arsenal is pretty much what I can surmise from what I can see. I mean, and that's from TalkSport too, the beloved Sky Sports, as much as maybe we want to steer away from the talk fraud. So
I honestly think it's winning something. I honestly think.
I agree.
If we won a league title, if we won even. No,
it wouldn't hurt, would it?
FA Cup doesn't do it. We've got to win something big. We've got to win the league. We've got to win the Champions League for us to be seen as an elite club.
Rumour is that if we beat Arsenal 5 minutes, Conte's going to put a 14.
Yeah, that was self-indulgent in the extreme, wasn't it?
That was self-indulgent. But yeah, no, if we win the league, win the Champions League, either or. Well, we're not going to win the Champions League, are we?
Well, hang on. Whoa.
Oh, there's another. Hang on.
Listen, when we were bottom of the group and I called it, we were going to win it. We almost did. Very nearly. If it wasn't for Musa Sissoko's armpit, we might have done. Facts.
Yeah, but we didn't.
You never know.
But But we know Conte doesn't have a great record in Europe. He'll have to pick league or Europe at the moment, especially with rotation.
I would also say quickly to Brunka, just remind me, all of the NBC Sports and sort of with Peacock, like NBC is the company that sort of basically runs all the Premier League games here. All of the analysts and side announcers to the actual commentators, to the actual head announcers are all ex-Chelsea, ex-Arsenal, etc.
You Lee Dixon, don't you?
That's just a symptom of their success.
Graham, what is it? Graham Lasso, absolutely is the most, like, he hates Spurs.
I can't believe he's got a job, to be honest. But, I mean,
but true. I mean, that's what we get the rechecks. We get the rechecks over here.
But these guys, there is a reason that the pundits now are who they are, and that is because their teams were really successful when they played for them.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying. We've got to be successful in order to get that same level of respect.
And they all hate us, the teams that they came from as well. Yeah, well, so
they're rivals. They're gonna dislike Arsenal.
Yeah, but Jack, that's interesting you say that, because for us, we've got Michael Bridges, who was an old Leeds man, Mark Schwarzer, Aussie keeper.
It's gone for Aussie players, really, haven't you?
Yeah, but we've got a couple of ex-EPL players there. No, not on TV. I love Kale, by the way, but not on Optus Sport. What was the big Danish keeper? Sorensen.
Thomas Sorensen.
But we don't, to be honest, they're actually somewhat more, I wouldn't say pro Spurs. Bridges is a Spurs fan, actually.
It sounds more northern than, like, the bias, like over on the Aussie side, more northern than.
Yeah. But it's a slight bias to Spurs. So it's quite interesting because I get that there's an anti-Spurs bias in Scott with Sky and whatever else. I've been over there, but it's interesting doing it via the Optus filter. It's not as anti-Spurs as you think.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that's because you employed maybe some more, like Midland/Northern club or former Midland/Northern club, maybe kind of players.
Yeah.
Maybe has a nicer feeling towards Spurs, or more of a neutral feeling in general.
I'll do it. Make me an offer.
Get a VPN and I'll give you my
son of a Wolves fan. Most neutral you can be.
Get me in there with the agents, Cameron. I fancy a trip to Australia.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, he's been on BBC already.
BBC, Premier League TV.
Come during our summer in the Ashes.
Sport. But just to name a few, really experienced. John, next slide. Come on. Give us a question.
Oh, okay. Oh, should we talk about the 3-5-2?
Yes,
Arsenal,
we should, because our lovely studio member Jack brought that up. God,
I was more interested in the other question, but we're welcome to talk about this as well.
We can talk about Garnish if you want, Jack.
Two questions then. I guess we all know the first question. Is he going to play? Is there any chance he will play 3-5-2?
No.
Anyone think? Yeah. Okay. Is the only way we get a result there by playing 3-5-2, or
can we the wild card before? I agree with Collar, but just to maybe make someone bite if they were a fish in this scenario. He has done this. He's done well. No one anticipated the 3-5-2 against Liverpool. That's what we all forget, I think, is that he did do the 3-5-2 against Liverpool. We all praised him for it, but no one saw it coming.
Wasn't that injury enforced though, Jack?
Maybe it was enforced by the lack of midfielders we had available, because it was Winks, Tanguy, and Dele. At the same time, though, like, we all thought he was too stubborn then to make a change, and he did do it. So perhaps this time he sees something similar here. And all I would say is that I do envision him, if we were maybe up 1-0, 2-0, which would be glorious. I'd be out of my seat, but I think maybe he would switch to a 3-5-2 then. But that's my short answer.
I can see him switching mid-game to 3-5-2. I can't see him starting the game. And I think the game against the Gooners will be an incredibly tight one. But I think we'll lose because we've got a terrible record at the Emirates. A truly terrible record there. That's my view on it.
You're not even going to build yourself up for it. You're not even going to psych yourself up a little bit.
No, I'd rather expect the worst and enjoy the best. I think that's what I would say. We are terrible there. We generally beat them at home or do very well at draw or win at home, and unfortunately it's a draw or loss away. That's generally the way it goes, isn't it?
They'll be up for it. They will really be up for it.
They're always up for it against us, but we're always up for it against them mainly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we've got a better team. Yeah, I think what would be interesting to do before the game, and I know we've got this lined up anyway, John, and you guys are absolutely welcome back on the show that week. But we're going to talk about who would get in from the Arsenal team into the Spurs team and vice versa. How many what would your combined team out the two look like? And it'd be interesting because, in my view, we've got a much better 11 than them, a much better 11, a much better manager. So it will be interesting to see what happens. What I would say about the Goons right now, they're playing very nice football. You can only beat what's in front of you, right? So they've knocked over all before them, pretty much, apart from Man United. So it will be an interesting game. It will be a really interesting game, and hopefully our unbeaten record will come out intact. If I was going to predict anything, I'd predict a draw. But we'll talk more about that on the preview show.
I would love a draw.
We have Stephen, our Gooner fan, is booked as well.
Oh, I love Stephen. He's so nice. It's annoying that he's a Gooner.
The Irish Gooner HG.
He looks a lot like HG, which I do find very, very, very amusing, to be honest. But yeah,
we once had last season. We had an Arsenal fan on the channel, and he was entirely Arteta out, Kroenke out, everything like that. You just didn't want to be listening to as he was entirely sensible, and it wasn't what you want to be having for content wise. It was actually unfair. We should have asked him to have different opinions coming on, especially hearing Arteta out at the time. Like hearing a guy at that stage, you wanted him to be full Arteta right before he betrayed them, but the guy didn't like him at the time. It was unfortunate. I wish he was a bit less sensible.
There you go. Right, John, roll the dice.
Well, I was just going to do Adrian's one here. Talk about proposed new offside technology. Do away with VAR, human decision.
Brilliant idea.
I thought there was still going to be an element of the automated thing will do it, and then they check it. Yeah. But it's going to make it quicker, isn't it?
I think it's mainly for offsides, this, isn't it? I think it's only offsides.
Yeah.
So it's not like it doesn't do away with VAR human decision making. It does away with offside human decision making.
But I still think they're going to check it, as I understand it. That's what
I think the Champions League version is a good example of it. The Champions League version, they use that very fancy technology for it, and it's just as scrutinous when it comes to like the finest of margins, but it just happens to have a prettier picture, I think, on the screen for us.
It'll be consistent and probably more accurate because there'll be more inputs into it. So, and that's all you want. You want consistency, don't you? I mean, I think it's bollocks, quite frankly. If you're having to check down to the millimeter that players.
No, even the new version, it's like I think they blur everything else out that's onside, and so what they do is then you see like the nose profile just like showing offside.
Which and then great, you're just like, if you're a nose offside, I mean,
the Roman nose had him offside.
This is not the game we were brought up on. This should not be happening. I mean, it's just bizarre. But anyway, at least they're doing something to make it consistent. And I suppose at this stage, that's all we can ask for, isn't it? So yeah, be great.
I've got one from Franco.
Go on then, John. Let's hit it.
Will any manager make such a bad mistake as getting rid of Jack Clarke?
Scored the other week, didn't he?
He has scored 3 goals and got 4 assists, I think it was, in 10 games this season. He's actually doing quite well. He does look about 12, though.
Doesn't he just, yeah? Has he got earrings in?
Will any director of football make as much of a horrible decision as signing Jack Clarke?
But Jack Clarke's another one of those that he was bought for future potential and then never given a chance, was he? Really?
Well, he never was
He
good
was
enough
too
to even
lightweight for
crack
me.
into the first team.
Yeah, quite possible.
Yeah.
Quite possible.
He'll have a,
He didn't even make
he'll
the
have a
team.
good career.
Like, he could, like, I mean, it's 25-man squad. He couldn't even make the team. Like, that seriously says something about the player. That doesn't say
What year
something.
did we get him in? This is the
Oh,
one I
yeah,
like.
it's a
This
it's
is
a
what
Marcus
people
Edwards
really want to know.
situation.
Yeah, thanks,
Bring him
Paddy.
back. Bring him back.
That's great. I've got to be honest. I like it with pink sauce personally. Is there one decision?
Is there one decision in the games played so far you would have done differently to Conte, be it team selection, formation, or
This
substitution?
is a good question.
Great question.
You can field it,
Paulo.
then, Cameron.
Kohler, go on. You have a go.
I'm thinking.
Well, I think whenever we line up against a team, and HG's touched on it, it's something I completely agree on. Whenever we play a team with 3 at the back, we struggle.
Yeah.
So play a 4 on that occasion and push more into midfield, 4-4-2, or play 3-5-2 and have extra bodies in midfield, less up top. Yeah, the Paddy's here, brilliant. Okay, thanks, Paddy.
Can I ask a question? The Chelsea game, we got played off the park or got done pretty well, and we drew that. I didn't watch it live. It was middle of the night.
We were lucky.
Can I ask a question there? Did Conte stick, was it 3-4-3 that game and just didn't change it? Like,
He went 4-4-2.
He changed to 4-4-2, didn't he?
And then he went back to 3-4-3, didn't he?
Yeah.
Later on.
Yeah. When he got the draw, basically. No,
yeah, I
would
would
have the last minute. I think where we went 1-1, wasn't it?
I would have liked to have seen a bit more initiative. Like, obviously, Conte and Tuchel were cat and mouse. They were going back and forth, but I didn't watch that game, so I don't know much detail of how we were.
We were spanked most of it, to be honest.
So you're saying any formation we would have been spanked?
No, I'm saying that playing 3-4-3 we were spanked.
Yeah, I would have liked.
My opinion would be we should have put 3-5-2 would have worked a lot better that game.
That's what I'm going to go to. Yeah,
but 3-5-2 works well a lot of games, and Conte barely ever plays it. I suppose that's my biggest frustration when you look at the Wolves game. It was ugly. We were just being overrun in midfield at times, and it's difficult because he does demonstrate some real tactical inflexibility at times. There other times he recognises it perfectly. So, I mean, look, he's a player, a manager, in fact, who's won lots of trophies. I've not won many except for on Football Manager. So what do I know compared to him? But to me, I think we need to be a bit bolstered in midfield against teams that are lining up with 3 at the back, because we get played 3-5-2 a lot against, and it works against us.
Yeah, I think on Saturday it proved that. As soon as Basuma came on, we had control of the game, didn't we? And Sonny was able to run wild.
You've got, in any football game, I was always taught you've got to boss the midfield. You if you don't own the midfield, you're really struggling. And I struggle with the tip back deep and counter because we've not got that good defenders. So fair enough, if we'd assigned a worldy, left centre back. I like Longley, by the way. I really like Longley. But if we'd assign a worldy left centre back, and if we've got a worldy right back, then maybe you can suck it up and absorb pressure and counter like that. But I don't feel confident that we're not going to let a fucking goal in every time we do that.
I think we'd have more possession if we had a ball playing centre back, another ball playing centre back.
Well, I'd play Longley.
And right. Well, yes, of course. But I think
he's a far better option than Davis in the system that Conte wants to adopt.
I agree. And I think we still need another one in case that Sanchez has to come in. I think Sanchez needs to go because he's so poor in possession. Poor in possession.
Well but Dyer's done well this season, so I'm not going to slander Dyer, but he's upgradable.
The point I was going to make, though, Collar, as much as I agree with you that there is that sort of notion that, most games are won in the midfield, there's also a lot of things that sort of point against it, because Leicester have had more possession in every single game they've played this season, and they're the bottom of the Premier League.
It's because they can't defend.
They've dominated the midfield in every game they've played, yet they're the worst team in the Premier League right now.
Can't put the ball in.
Conceded the most goals. and they've conceded the most goals, which then means like, yes, maybe they have a fair bit of the ball, but you can tear through them. Like,
on the flip side, Arsenal's near the top as well, and they seem to be bossing the midfield.
Well, what I mean, but then that's what I mean. You can pick which team to argue your point. Like, you can't point to every team that dominates the ball and say that they win games and things.
No,
like
but
that. And whereas you can point to Spurs, a team that never dominates the ball, and like I said before, have more goals than Arsenal and have conceded just as many as Arsenal. So there's like ways to look at it where, yes, you can point to teams that are pretty on the eye, but Leicester, I think, have been pretty on the eye on certain occasions, but they're the worst team in the Premier League, technically.
But Leicester's defence has got Johnny Evans at centre-back.
Yeah. Well, he's actually, sadly, their best centre-back, so that really speaks to the situation.
But this is my point. You know, and the keeper's dodgy.
That's the problem. They've lost Schmeichel. Schmeichel's such an influence on that team, not just his ability as a goalkeeper, but he was the lead. He was a massive leader in that club.
No,
he's last season, though, he was statistically the worst season. He had the worst season he ever had last season, supposedly.
I know, but from a point of the link between the club, that he was the one the owners used to go and speak to.
That's how bad it is.
He was a big. Yeah, he was a big
in the dressing room.
In the dressing room,
maybe.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. He was a skipper. As a keeper, average.
Shout at all of you lot. It's never my fault. That's what Schmeichel was, 100%. So yeah, maybe there's someone that the owners used to go talk to, but the reality is their defense is absolute pony. That's why they're getting ripped apart.
Hey, they've got a David Luiz lookalike now,
and their midfield has no bite in it. They've got pretty players, but no bite, and that's the real reason they're struggling.
Ndidi was poor on Saturday, I have to say.
Terrible.
I was really surprised.
Terrible. I mean, really when he got dispossessed for that goal, Christ.
Yeah.
That is a player at the bottom of his confidence.
I've got one from. Here we go. He should have rested Son earlier than he did. I think we were all calling for Son to be put on the bench, weren't we? Pretty much.
I mean, look at the impact he had when he came off the bench.
Yeah. I mean, it was lucky it was against Leicester. That probably helped.
He's lucky against Leicester, and he was lucky he was playing in a two up top. I think because I think he suits that a lot better than a 3. To be really honest, I think. Should we talk about Son's free kick while we're here?
Well, an absolute beautiful free kick. If you haven't seen it, I have retweeted it on the Cheese Room Twitter account. Just outside the box, top corner, beautiful. When was the last time Son actually took a direct free kick for Spurs? Can everyone remember?
Ooh,
why does Kane take them all?
Because is that a question, John? Is that a serious question?
Well, I think we know the answer, don't we?
Because Kane grabs the ball and goes, "I can do this," and every time they buy into the bullshit.
But yeah, if you haven't seen it,
Kane's contract, I think Kane is allowed a certain amount of free kicks regardless of the outcome. Maybe per season, maybe it's part of the contract.
Yeah,
there's no explanation at this stage.
I mean, look, Perisic, I think probably takes the best free kick. To be honest,
yeah,
we've not seen Perisic take any direct free kicks yet, but
look at the way he strikes the ball.
Absolutely. His set pieces so far have been brilliant.
I'm telling you now, I bet Perisic takes a better free kick than Kane. That said, I could take a better free kick than Harry Kane, so I'm not sure that counts for much.
There is that.
Well, throw your head in there. Throw your name in there.
Sunday's interesting because I think everyone's gone, he's got a hat-trick, got it at Leicester, but to me the rubber hits the road in the following games now. Like, it's got to be consistent. This is a matter of, like, we're happy he's broken his duck, but he's
tends to go on a streak, though.
Yes, he's very streaky, isn't he?
Tends to go on a streak. So, I'd expect him to score.
I think it was a condition of the 3-5-2, him being able to do that, because the reason I think he was struggling were in that 3-4-3 playing. He's played a left winger before, don't get me wrong, but what he'd been asked to do is drop a bit deeper, as you guys have seen, and kind of hold up the play, link up play, have a defender on his back, causing him trouble, causing him nightmares. And he was struggling with that in the beginning. And I think actually he was getting better with it game by game, getting a lot better with it. But it's not something that totally is his forte or totally is his comfort zone. And then the moment that we put Basuma on to switch to a 3-5-2, what is Sonny doing? He's playing on the shoulder of the last man of the defender, and he's making runs through the channels, making runs through the lines, and he has Harry Kane to play it to him. Like, that's his total comfort zone. And what does he do? He scores 3 goals within 13 whatever minutes or whatnot. I think that's a condition of like Sonny being immediately put in a position where he's most comfortable and doesn't have to be told twice what to do.
3-5-2 suits us to win matches, in my opinion. But here's the thing: doesn't suit us to give the minutes to the players that we want to keep happy.
Exactly, that's where it is, and I think Conte has even said this before. Like, where the dilemma lies is he then rests a player where our strengths lie. Our strengths are in our attackers. Our strengths are in our forwards. We don't have strengths in the defense. Our midfield is pretty solid and hardworking, but our strength is in our forwards and our wingers and our strikers. And if he goes 3-5-2, you're resting basically 2 forwards essentially, because you're resting a forward naturally by having a back 3 or a back 5, and then you're resting another forward by only going with 2 up top. So essentially, you're resting Kulusevski and Richarlison. Kulusevski and Richarlison are left on the bench.
That might work moving forward with the number of games we've got coming up.
It's true. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very advisable, but someone like him, he sees all the goals he might be leaving on the bench and think like there's got to be a way I can sort of make this work. I think a similar situation would be like if you were at PSG and you were like, just going to go with Messi and Neymar, going to leave Mbappe on the bench right now. I think it's a similar situation, actually, where like you sort of feel like, yes, it looks good on paper to do that, more solid, whatever it may look. It's a bit ludicrous to tell one of those players that you're going to rest Richarlison and Kulusevski for every game, and they're going to come off the bench. I think it's going to be a hard thing to ask of them. I know we're not doing that. That's an extreme scenario. But yeah, I guess we'll get on this.
That.
No.
Could you play Decky as a 10? Could he play up front as a striker, or could he play as a number 8 in a midfield 3?
He could play as a 10, yeah. But what formation are we playing at this point, John?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, are you playing him just behind a single striker, I guess? Or you can play him as a forward of a midfield 3, couldn't you?
But that's bollocks, because we're never going to play him behind a single striker. That's not the Conte. That doesn't fit into any of our systems, does it? Our systems are quite routinely 3-4-3. We know where he fits in that formation. Yeah. 3-5-2. Are you suggesting we play like a little triangle in midfield and have 2 holding deep midfielders and 1 slightly more forward?
I think you've got options. You could do that. You could just play the 3, 1 pivot in the middle, which could be Bentancur because he can pass the ball. It could be either Hojbjerg or Bissouma because they're more into tackling effectively, aren't they? They're the more rugged.
I think the problem is Conte. Openly Conte says it's better to draw a game than to lose a game, right? Which is fairly common sense. In order to achieve that, he has a very solid, combative midfield. Decky doesn't fit into that. So, for me, if he's going to play a 3-5-2, he's always going to play 3 fairly deep lying midfielders, ideally who can carry and distribute the ball like Bentancur can, like Hojbjerg can to a degree.
Yeah.
We've seen this season, and definitely like Bissouma can. So those would be my 3 all day long, and you could rotate them with Skipp, who also does that job really, really well. Decky doesn't fit into that. He doesn't fit in a 2 up top. He is not, for me, a forward. And you would use Richarlison for that rotation. So the problem is we've bought players to fit 3-4-3. That's the way we've geared up. We've bought our squad to play 3-4-3. So to switch to a permanent 3-5-2 would have to be a complete transformation of the squad.
I agree.
I don't think we're going to do that.
Right. I think
Hojbjerg has. Yeah. Sorry, Jake. Hojbjerg has been good, and he's been nominated for Player of the Month, I understand. Mm-hmm. But Real Madrid considering €58 million bid for Hojbjerg to replace Modric. Would that seem a bit strange?
I mean, Hojbjerg and Modric could not be further apart for me.
Yeah.
What do you two think? Cameron, you say your piece.
Oh, they're completely different. One's a cement mixer. One's this is I don't get that. I've just read that now. I haven't heard anything about it. I get that he's been getting interest from Madrid, but for replacing Modric and what? Yeah,
that's bonkers.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's not going to replace Modric. Let's be honest. I can see him acquiring him, but he's not going to replace Modric.
No,
He is not a Modric style player. He's a good.
He's more
player.
Tony Kroos, isn't he? I guess.
Yeah. Look,
that's a good comparison.
58 million for Hojbjerg. I would say take the money and run. That is mega bucks for quite a limited player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a decent player. I'm not going to hate on the guy. And I think he's done very well this season, but 58 million quid for him is, or euros. What's that? 50 million pounds. Mind you, the way the exchange rate's going, it'll be 58 million quid before you know it. So
they're both stabbing a cooler doll at the moment.
That's right. I'd take the money. Yeah, absolutely.
Jack, would you take the money?
I'd take the money, but definitely
Okay. I wouldn't unless we had an adequate replacement that I'd be totally confident with. Here's what I would do. If I took 58 million for Hojbjerg, I'd probably go after the guy that I had wanted us to go for before Newcastle bought him. I would have gone after that Bruno Guimaraes guy.
Good player.
But team like Newcastle, you can't really, bully them with money over there. So you find yourself in a tough situation. I think where Hojbjerg is often disrespected is, yes, he doesn't look the prettiest as maybe either haircut wise.
Well, you tell Shan that. She loves him.
I'm a huge Hojbjerg fan, so maybe this is what I'm about to get into. I'm a huge Hojbjerg fan. If you really look at the underlying numbers of this team right now, Hojbjerg is not the problem. In fact, Hojbjerg has been the solution for this team this season. Bentancur, as pretty as he looks on the ball, as good as his haircut is at times, and as elegant as he is, he doesn't play the progressive passes to break the lines of the midfield in the way that Hojbjerg does. What he does, as Bentancur does, is he receives the ball under pressure and wins the ball in an excellent way and is able to sort of, keep composure. Hojbjerg does the same thing. He's also able to win the ball for us. And in fact, I think is still a better ball winner than Bentancur was. Originally, when we even brought Hojbjerg into this team, was to do the work that no one else wanted to do under that Jose team. Sissoko was too useless to do it. Ndombele never wanted to do it. Harry Winks was also too useless to do it. So there really wasn't a player to be a ball-winning midfielder. I think what a lot of us Spurs fans, as well as just football fans in general, often forget is every team has a ball-winning midfielder, whether they like it or not, whether it's Real Madrid or whether it's, Cambridge United or whatever it may be. There's a ball-winning midfielder in that team. And Hojbjerg was originally brought in for that purpose. I think what's made Hojbjerg quite exceptional and has probably made him earn such a strong fan base like Shan has been a part of is that he's grown from there. I've seen a lot of improvement from him just being able to win ball. I've seen him being able to play exceptional passes over the top. I've seen him be able to switch play. I've seen him be able to receive it under pressure against teams like Man City and not completely crumble, not completely collapse. He's shown to be a high quality midfielder, whether he's not Glenn Hoddle-esque or something like that is another story. But I think a lot of people ignore all the things that Hojbjerg does for this team. And if we found an adequate replacement for 58 million, I'd probably take it. But all of the things from leadership to ball winning to being also our best ball playing midfielder at this moment in time, I think you might want a bit more. I'd take like 70 just to make sure that I'm actually having all corners covered, because I don't know whether you fix all the things that Hojbjerg leaves us with, because you lose also, I believe, isn't he like the second or third in command, basically, in terms of like the leadership rank, I believe at Spurs as well. He's the first one in, last one out. You lose a lot of things there. And he's also played every single game for every manager that's managed here at Spurs. I don't know, like 58 million. Here's what I'm trying to say. 58 million. Yes, that's tempting. But you're losing a lot with what he goes with. Yes, you could buy a more glamorous midfielder, even like a Bruno Guimaraes. You could buy a more glamorous midfielder, but you then still don't replace the leadership that he brings and like stuff like that. So it's a very delicate situation, I think, if you sell Hojbjerg. And that's coming from a huge Hojbjerg fan. So probably quite understandable that I gave him that much praise.
I'll be really honest. You just put Ollie Skipp in there and you've got an upgrade straight away.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, would Ollie Skipp be the flip?
Yeah. I mean, Ollie Skipp's a better player. Hojbjerg, what Hojbjerg does really fantastic. I mean, the problem is, jokes aside, is fitness of Ollie Skipp. That's the worry. But I think he's a better player. He does everything Hojbjerg does, but better. Apart from
he can't flap.
He doesn't do that so well, and he doesn't like point around, shout.
He's the most through balls of any midfielder in the league right now.
He's what? Sorry,
he's the most through balls completed of any midfielder in the league, more than De Bruyne.
Please,
he's so disrespected.
You can absolutely bend stats.
I mean, I don't agree. I don't think
bending
Skipp's better player now.
That's not that. You just have to watch Spurs. You've seen those through balls in person. They've been glorious. I mean, did you not even just see the other day? Like, he did 2 step-overs past Tielemans and played an outside the foot through pass and behind for Sonny. Like, the man is not Hojbjerg. He's Sauceberg is what I would say. And I think he's disrespected too much. The fact that I love Skipp. I love a Skipp as much as the next guy, but
I think Hojbjerg limits this actually.
Hojbjerg is the fact that you just
his transition.
The fact you wrote him off that quickly. His
transitional play is terrible.
He's not only the Viking, like you said. He's not only the Viking, but all of the stats nerds wouldn't even. The Viking nerds would argue my case, and the stats nerds would argue my case. I mean, everybody loves Hojbjerg. Everybody loves Hojbjerg.
I think this is the point. Experience for me. Skippy needs to stay fit and get experience, but at the moment Hojbjerg is that much.
Well, I'm half joking with Skipp, if I'm being perfectly honest.
But I know it was a good day.
Everyone was talking start of the season about Bissouma and Bentancur being our midfield pairing, and I think there's a reason why Hojbjerg is trusted by every manager, because they know every time he pulls on the shirt, he gives 110%, and he does bring a leadership element to the team.
He should be.
He is a fierce competitor, absolutely. However, I do think he's quite limited as a midfielder.
I think he should be rested more too. I think it's
he should absolutely be more rotated, just to give the other guys a chance to see what they can do apart from anything else.
I agree.
I don't think he's as good as you're giving credit for. And I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. That's what I honestly think.
I'll take that. I think that's a level-headed way to put it there.
Yeah, and Skippy's a wonderful player, but he just needs to get fit. He really does.
We've got one from JP here, who's obviously not completely died. He was supposed to be on the show tonight, but he wussed out. Perisic crossing and dead balls are decent, but grossly overrated by our dead ball, especially deprived supporters. My word, JP, he's gone for it there, hasn't he?
Speciality deprived, a dead ball speciality deprived supporters. I think he means.
Oh, okay. What do we think he's overrated crossing?
No, he's not overrated at all. He's a fantastic cross through the ball. I think we're paying him £178,000 a week. I saw the earlier slide. Is he worth the money? Absolutely worth every single penny for his corners and free kick. Look, he's. I mean, I don't know how many assists he's on there. He's about 4 or 5 assists already this season, isn't he? And he's not played all the games. The guy is gonna get a lot of assists this season. He gives us a much more lethal option into the final third than Sessegnon.
Yeah. He's got three assists in 7 league games.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I think he'll score goals as well if he stays fit and plays consistently. I think he's a much better finisher. He's a much better ball of the box. Is he as defensively solid as Sessegnon? Possibly not, controversially. But I think you want him to be going forward. That's why you play 3 at the back. Fundamentally, you play 3 at the back because you got plenty of defensive cover. You want your fullbacks, your wing backs in that system to be progressive, attacking. And as much as we've maligned Emerson on the right, we've got some fantastic options on 2 fantastic options on the left. I think Sessegnon, I'm a big Sessegnon fan. I think he's going to have a good season, and I think he's showing some of that already. But Perisic is world class. I think he genuinely is a world class player. proved it as well. Scored in the World Cup final.
I think he can get better. Maybe is if you were to find a middle ground there. Maybe is that he hasn't been as amazing as we probably thought he would be right away. But is that being unfair to him? Maybe that's being that unfair to him that we thought he would.
He's not played in the Premier League before, has he? So the pace is different.
Yeah,
Thank God, is it different to, now Napoli making Tongi and Dembele look like, he's got pace. So I think the pace of the game is completely different.
Good point.
Okay. Did you notice Perisic got booked celebrating? He came off the bench.
Did he?
To celebrate Sonny's, I think it was Sonny's first goal. Yeah, he'd been substituted already and he ran on the pitch, so he got booked for that, having got away with the 2 horrendous challenges before the penalty.
Cleverly kept the kit on though to maybe try to get away with it though. To who knows, maybe no one would have noticed.
But yeah, it shows how much he cares. He's already buying into the team. You always see him talking to the other players.
That comment. That is thanks, Alpesh. That's yeah.
That's just my army of PEH lovers. Sorry about that, caller. I had to stoop low. I had to pull out the guns.
That's all right. I don't dislike PH. I like to be slightly controversial.
Oh, there you go. Borodin's going for it defensively.
I genuinely think that's a fair assessment.
I was arguing a more ridiculous point than anybody. I was basically arguing that 58 million wasn't maybe enough for Spurs. They probably should be enough.
I think you're right
with how teams handle their money these days. I'm not so sure. Maybe if it's
here's the thing for me, right, Jack. You're probably right because the point you raise is a good one. Adequate replacement are the key words. So if you can adequately replace him, then or upgrade him, should be upgrading. So if you sell a midfielder for 58 million, you want to upgrade. You don't want to downgrade, and you don't really want someone the same. And that's the purpose, and that's the point, isn't it? And you would hope that we could do that because 58 million is a lot for a central midfielder.
It should be. It should be a lot, and you should be able to, do what you can to replace him with that. I don't know, other teams in the past, as well as us, Man United to Chelsea to whatever, get that sort of fee for a player, and then they find out, oh, wait a minute, like we didn't actually replace him. Like in the case of Liverpool with Mane,
right?
Like they thought they replaced Mane. Turns out they didn't. And
you want to win the league, yeah. You have to upgrade every time you sell a player. You have to upgrade.
I'm just worried we buy a Darwin Nunez. Maybe is what I'm saying. I'm worried we buy a Darwin Nunez and then we find ourselves totally
get that.
That comes down to recruitment.
It should be enough. That's plenty of cash. That should be enough. Yeah.
Did you see the clip of Perisic going down injured after he had a little coming together PH? It looked quite innocuous, but he went down. I think he had to go off after it.
I've heard I've heard it was okay. I've heard it really wasn't like that serious from somebody that was really watching the game. They said it wasn't actually that serious. So,
good.
Which is good news. I mean, we're all so unlucky in these international breaks. I mean, Hugo got scanned by a random French doctor for having something that no other Spurs medical team staff was able to find, I guess, the whole time. Within a day, he had some mysterious injury that no Spurs medical staff was able to discover.
Well, it's interesting. You've seen Harry Kane apparently has been seeing a Spanish physio for since his hamstring injury against Southampton in January 2020. He's been seeing this Spanish physio. He's been flying him over, and he's been really helping him. Which he's saying he'll probably get an injury now, won't he? But he's been saying it's helped him with his hamstring and his ankles particularly.
It does seem that our medical staff are to coin a good old English phrase.
I thought Conte had replaced a lot of it. Didn't Conte? Yeah, I think Conte's made big changes over the summer.
Fitness coaches, but not physios, I don't think.
I'm sure I saw something about medical. I mean, surely you would, wouldn't you? If he's bringing all his team in, he will know medical people that surely he trusts. Even if they haven't got the whole team.
But I don't think you just
maybe
physios.
You'd be surprised how common it is if a manager or a coach does come in, if they have a trusted doctor that they lean on. It's more common than you'd think. That I wouldn't be surprised if Conte's got his own set of doctors or connections to doctors where he would probably get that second opinion.
We've had the same club.
He complained about the medical staff last season, though. He complained about the medical staff, said that made a few murmurings of it. So does he really have his medical staff if he sort of
I don't think he does. I don't think he does, Jack. I think, honestly, the club doctor is the club doctor, and I think they've been in situ for a long time.
And he's made complainings
18
about
years, Jeff Scott's being at Tottenham.
There you go.
As various roles.
I'm not saying there's some underlying problem there at Spurs. I'm sure they're quite thorough. You'd want them to be very thorough. They're dealing with multi-million-pound assets at the end of the day. But
Bayern have been accused of the same thing in the past, so it is a real thing. Like, I believe a few coaches before at Bayern have accused the Bayern medical staff of being incompetent, and so it's not. I mean, that's
it's kind of a bit
that know what they're doing as well, and they've been.
It's slightly worrying though when a manager whose qualifications to run a team are he was a good international player, he was a good club player, and he's passed all his FIFA badges. But he knows absolutely nothing about medicine, but according to him, knows much more than someone who's been at medical school for 10 years and a doctor for X amount of time.
They do enjoy chatting about toothpaste with Dele Alli, so maybe I see where it's
but it's the old Mourinho thing, isn't it?
True.
True. Digging out the depth when he knows nothing.
JP's comment there, Decky for Emerson. JP's comment there.
Can't even see that.
Maybe if it were a 3-5-2,
Where is it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a fan. He did it, didn't he? One game. What game was it he put him on at right wing back?
Well, let's see, Lucas. But Lucas has been absent without leave pretty much for the whole season. So
he was in the stand on Saturday.
Absent with leave, I should say.
Yeah, he's injured, isn't he?
Yes.
So he was in the stand on Saturday. There was pictures of him. I think he was actually quite close to Brendan.
Medical team is shit.
Yeah. I think he was quite close to Brendan, but Brendan didn't realise. Probably because there was too many tears in his eyes that Sandro hadn't come.
He was very upset. Now to pick him up. That's a point, actually. I've got a bar bill to claim back. Yeah. Long story short, yeah.
Richie scored. What we got? Richie scored again 7 goals in 5 games for Brazil, and that's why he's in ahead of Jesus.
Exactly. He's quality. He's quality.
Are we going to see more of Richie subbing off Kane now? Given the amount of games coming up, are we going to actually rest Kane?
Depends, doesn't it? I mean, you're drawing a game 1-1. The thing is, all the Premier League games are very tight, generally speaking. I mean, you could have took him off against Leicester, but only with about 15 minutes to go.
Because he can't play Kane continually.
He can, though, can't he? He's done it last 2-3 years.
No, but I've made the same point, Caller. We haven't bought ourselves that time period to be able to. I know people have complained about rotation, but every game has been close, and every game has been, whether we've even played well, like Fulham, we absolutely bossed them out of the park. Still ended up being 2-1. So
exactly.
But you're going to blunt him. You're playing every.
We did it to ourselves. We should be able to rotate, but we're doing it to ourselves.
Points are so important and so precious. I don't think you can take off your best player when the game is tight. And I think we're waiting. I think if we were 3-0 up, no problem. Take him off. 60 minutes. Job done. Thanks very much. Have an extra half hour's rest.
Is that the perfect scenario?
That is the perfect scenario, but it's the realistic scenario. There's no way. So, I mean, look, Kane has played nearly every league game he's been fit for the last how many years?
This is what I'm getting at. Yeah, I get you.
I don't see that he's any more likely to get an injury this year than he was any of the other years.
Or do you have him coming off the bench after a half time or something?
No.
Richie?
No, you have to start your best team.
That's what the Spanish physio recommends. So
you have to start your best team.
Spanish physio recommends playing him every single minute.
Elite level football. You cannot do the star strike off the bench stuff unless you're not having much to play for, or you're way clear at the top of the league. Neither of which are likely to be this season.
I mean, at some point we're going to have to try games with Richie in there, maybe Richie and Sonny up front, and vary it about. But it's a gamble, isn't it? Because if you lose, there you go.
We have to think about that because we can be a Harry Kane team, but we've got Richie now. We've got Kulu. We've got. I get what you're all saying, but is it going to come to the point where England's got Kane and he's essentially a corpse of himself because he's just been run into the ground?
But he hasn't been a corpse to himself any season.
Southgate didn't even rest him for Tony against Italy.
I think it might be interesting because now England are down. There's a good chance Tony or I don't know if Abraham's in the squad might play the next game because it's a dead rubber for us, isn't it?
Dead rubber, and it's also the last game before the World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So there's a different dynamic on it. But
yeah, true.
And against Germany as well. This is a bad omen for you guys.
Oh, they lost tonight, didn't they? So they'll be looking to come back. Yeah,
they did indeed. Well, we didn't lose
with the World Cup coming up.
What's that, Cameron? Sorry, I missed it.
Do they care with that World Cup coming up with all the Nations League where they want to probably concentrate on the World Cup?
Don't think they care.
No, I think it's just more about this is the last game they've got, the last chance to prepare for the game against
ideally,
Iran, isn't it?
You would start your full strength side for at least 45, the first 45, and see how it goes. Because it's your last opportunity to see how they're going to play. But like I said, I think we'll crash and burn. One thing that hasn't crashed and burned tonight is the show. I want to thank the three of you for your efforts. We've been going nearly 2 hours. It feels like we could talk all night, to be honest. But, Cameron, you're clearly buzzing on coffee. I'm flagging, mate. I'm flagging. I've got to be honest. So we're going to call it a night. Jack, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it. And as ever, where can we find you?
Find me on the Irish alongside the other David Harris as well. We've had plenty of content coming out probably daily at this stage. So head on over there. If you're looking for something very non-Spurs related, and I do mean very non-Spurs related, check out a recent video I put up on the Flat Cap where I spoke about maybe a certain manager that I think will maybe be the next sort of Julian Nagelsmann. And I do mean by that the very sort of fashionable turtlenecks, fine sport coats, tactical philosophies, all that sort of stuff. He seems to be the next up and coming guy. So I kind of did a bit of a hunch guess that he'll be a good manager in the future, perhaps a Premier League manager in the near future. And it's the RB Salzburg manager, Matthias Jaisla, who got that draw against Graham Potter. So that sounds interesting to you on a Friday evening. Check it out.
There you go. Cameron, as ever, Cameron and the Beanie. Good day, mate.
Otherwise, it's shaved underneath. But yes, it keeps the head warm.
There you go. And John.
Cheers, mate.
Nearly had to rely on you to host tonight, but I made it back from Bogner in time.
Thank you very much. You're hosting Monday, though. You've got Seb and Bren and Becky on Monday.
What a team.
Gee.
I mean, that's...
Well, I'm on an AFD at work, so Freshers Week and all that.
That's an absolute must-watch, that is, isn't it? Brendan and Seb in the same show. I mean, Christ, anything could happen. When I know one thing, I won't be talking much.
Southgate must have picked that one.
Absolutely. You know what to do. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.